Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you for having me on.
So let's get straight into it. You have Die of the Dead on Kickstarter right now. As of the day we're speaking, there's 5 days left. And you have 1,168 backers with 28,818 pledged against the target of 7,000.
Yeah.
I can tell why you're smiling. How does it feel?
It's an incredible campaign. I knew it was good. I knew from the moment that I saw James with the game, I thought this is something that's different. And usually if something's different, that gets people interested, it gets people excited. And I thought if we can make this better and we can really show people how different it is, then people will be interested. But it's a difference between thinking something, having it in theory, and then over a year later, actually seeing it in fruition, seeing it come true. So I'm delighted that that's managed to happen.
Well, congratulations. You mentioned James there. That's James Allen. He's the designer of the game, right? What's your relationship with him? How do you two connect?
So James runs the Leeds playtest group. I'm based in York. It's obviously really close to Leeds, and I used to know the person who did the Leeds playtest group before that, and I used to do some playtesting there. But we actually met at AirCon, the convention at Harrogate, which is equidistant between the two. And that's when I saw Die of the Dead. It's where I met James, and I've met a load of other playtesters there as well. But when I saw him with the game, I got talking to him and arranged to see him at the UK Games Expo, see how he got on pitching it to other publishers. And when he said that there was no bite there, I thought that they're crazy. So that was it. I said, let me publish it. I really wanted to publish it. I couldn't believe other people were turning him down. So, yeah.
Amazing. So you came to him and you said, I'll be your publisher because everyone else said no. And you were doing that after a fairly successful Kickstarter that you did, a year and a half ago, was it now?
Yeah, so I did a Kickstarter last year in about June. It was for a small card game, Forks. Very different to this in terms of manufacturing. Forks is something which I got printed in Europe, but then I actually had to assemble them in my garage to send out. So it's very different things. I end up making the boxes by hand and things like that. But that was really useful just in terms of a first Kickstarter to get used to how Kickstarters run, what you can do with the Kickstarter, what people expect, how to market, all that kind of stuff. It was really nice to do with a relatively small game. And after that, I thought, I know how this works now. I'm able to scope up production. And then I spoke to James. I thought, I'm confident enough to give this one a crack. And
So Forks, you designed that, is that right?
Yep. So I designed Forks. It's based on a game I designed ages ago for it was a 18-card micro game competition, and then actually Bez, I don't know if you know Bez, but she was running a competition with her Wibble deck, and so I adapted that game into the Wibble deck, and it was one of the runner-ups. And I thought, actually, if this had a dedicated deck, it'd be even better. So I made a dedicated deck for it. It's a real. Obviously, I'm biased. I think it's a fantastic game, but loads of people told me that they just love playing it. It's just a small card game, and I think with those types of games, it's very hard to go wrong with them.
So that had 251 backers a year and a bit ago, and that gave you the confidence and the know-how and the knowledge to then do this. Do you think you did anything drastically different to go from that amount of backers to over 1,000?
I think with Die of the Dead, I knew that I wanted to target. The plan was in the UK to get it's got such a great table presence with the steps and the caskets. I thought we're going to hit the conventions, get out as many conventions as possible. So in the UK, there's word of mouth about it, and then for the US, send it over to the big name previewers so people can see it. Obviously, then COVID hit. I was incredibly fortunate to be able to attend AirCon before lockdown. I think it's I said to Mark, it's the best convention of 2020 by virtue of being probably the only convention of 2020, but it is also fantastic. So I had to change things a little bit. Still had the previewers in America, and I think because of the way the game looks, they're willing to give it a shot and say, you know what, this does look interesting, and that helped spread the word of mouth massively. Yes, so we're able to build on that. And I think also because people have been in lockdown more, people have been going online more looking for things. So I've been trying to share what I can, you know, on social media. And again, it's something, the game catches people's eyes. So even if it's not at a convention, it's still something people stop and take a look at because of how it looks.
Yeah, the art does look beautiful. When you first met James, was it called Die of the Dead? Has it always been named that?
So James called it Die of the Dead. He's gone through various iterations with the game as the designer. But no, when I saw him with it, it was Die of the Dead. He had the caskets and the dice, and there were lots of other things which were different and things we've changed. But that core mechanic of having the conveyor belt of dice, that stayed the same. And then, I mean, I'm a sucker for a good pun. So I thought, yeah, that's the game.
I mean, the name's genius. I think it's such a good, catchy name. It kind of gives you an indication as to what you're going to be doing a little bit with the name. Obviously links it back to something that everyone is familiar with as well, and promotes one of the core mechanics in the game. I mean, it's
fantastic.
It's genius. It's one of the best game names ever, I think. I absolutely love it. And the art, I want to go back to that quickly. Did James do the art as well?
No, so the art is done. We've got one of the things that we insisted upon, we wanted, because obviously it's based on Dia de Muertos, we wanted to get a Mexican artist as well as a cultural consultant to make sure it was respectful. We've hired it's a fantastic artist. She's called Rusambel in Mexico, and she did all the artwork. So the caskets, which are absolutely beautiful, and the artwork for the steps and the Pablo Picardo boards and things like that. So she's been brilliant to work with, because I think when you're an artist, a lot of time people think it's an easy job, but the amount of demands publishers put on you, say, oh, can you tweak this? Can you tweak this? But she's been absolutely wonderful, and everything looks stunning, and it is thanks to her.
It does. There's only a few games that I wouldn't pack away at the end of playing and put on the shelf because I want to display it on my shelf. I have the Everdell tree from Everdell out all the time. That's partly because it's annoying to pack away, but it does be cool. But if I were to have this game, I 100% would keep that stuff out because it just looks so cool. Like the table presence of it is phenomenal, but I would want it on my shelf all the time. I just think it looks brilliant, and I'd imagine that's a big part about maybe why this game has been so successful. But I don't want to take away from the mechanics of it because it sounds really fun too. So I want to get onto that because I know you mentioned that there's a lot of people that have backed this game on the £1 just to get access to the pledge manager.
Yep.
So with a few days left, and when that pledge manager comes around to them in a few weeks' time, they're, I guess, going to be in a position where am I going to put another 20 or so pounds into this to get the actual game, or am I just going to donate £1 to some random guy on Kickstarter? What would you say to them to get them to go one way rather than the other?
I think the main thing really is if there are any questions, just to send me a message. So if you've got any questions about shipping, or I've had a lot of people asking about the dice and the colours, which I've tried to address in the updates and the comments. But any questions along those lines or any concerns, just to get in touch. So some people have asked me privately about local pickup, and it's one of those things that I wasn't going to advertise just because we don't know with lockdown, you know, are we going to be able to do that? But to be honest, if people can travel to York to our games club beyond Monopoly, then I'm happy to do local pickup. So there's things like that where if anyone's got any questions, just send me a message. Also, if you pledged early, there have been some more previews uploaded since Kickstarter started, as well as a full playthrough. Actually, do a socially distanced playthrough, all wearing masks, so we're a bit muffled. But you can actually see the game in action. And so things like that, just to help people make up their mind one way or another. Absolutely. But yeah, I do think, obviously, we've only got 5 days to go. And so we're doing fantastically well. But if anyone is on the fence, then obviously To get access to the pledge manager, I'd implore people to do that for the quid and then ask me anything about it.
What do you think makes the game special mechanically in the actual playing of it? What do you enjoy most about
Well,
it?
there's some things that I haven't seen done before. One of them is the moving of the dice. Now, obviously, we've got those lovely caskets to move the dice, but I haven't seen that done where it's concealed, moved around, and then used as shakers. I haven't seen that done in any other game. It's a combination of you can plan for where you want your dice to move to. It's almost you can picture it almost as a conveyor belt, but if you get to the end, you go back to the start. So you've got to think about where they are. And I know there's been some games like Chocolate Factory and so on with conveyor belt mechanisms, but there's not many, and there's definitely none where it's about moving containers of dice. So that's absolutely new. The dice themselves, most dice games that they take the form of Yahtzee. You're rolling three, you want certain combinations, or you're doing some maths and adding them up. We worked a lot on what we want the results to be to try and speed up the process. So there's just simple dice comparisons in there, meaning that even if you've got one dice and someone else has got 6 dice, you can still roll the highest number. Obviously there's always a chance to win, but your odds do fall away. So we've thought about that dice mitigation really carefully in order to help with that. So yes, there's some things there that we haven't seen before in games, and that's what I want to bring to the table.
Nice. I mean, I think for me, from an outsider's perspective, for under 30 quid, I would buy this game just to get the components. The game looks brilliant and I want to play it, but I would happily pay the money just for the components. You've got 75 custom dice. You got this awesome step thing that you talked about and the caskets. Like everything, this game just looks so beautiful, and it just so happens that it looks like it's going to be a brilliant game too. I mean, for under 30 quid, I just think this is an absolute no-brain backer.
I have had people ask me if they can buy the casket separately, just like jewelry containers and things, and I've said that's not something we're going to be doing just because of the logistics of it. But yeah, I do think it looks special and it does play special as well.
Well, let's wait and see. You get to 1 million, then who knows what you'll be doing logistically. So I'm keen to go back to the origins of you setting up the business. Was that for the first game or was it prior to that?
I set up the company before Forks. I thought I wanted to have something semi-official when I published it, and I never actually planned to publish other people's designs. It was when I saw this and I thought, actually, this is really good, and if other people are going to turn it down, then I want to. Part of it is thinking I want to help out local designers. And part of it is actually, no, this is just a really good game that I think people should get a chance to play. So yeah, that was it. And it's partly about, saying we're going to be professional with this, try and do everything formally, make sure that, you hear horror stories about people who do Kickstarters and then lose a house. And I thought that's not going to be me. So yeah, it's just turned out really well, really well.
Where does the name Radical 8 come from?
So partly it's a reference to one of my favorite video games of all time called Virtue's Last Reward, and there's something there called Radical 6, and I couldn't go for that because obviously if you Google Radical 6 you're going to get that game. Partly is due to a conversation with a student about how much better it is to say radical rather than the square root of, and I thought I agree with that.
Is that what radical means?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
And so I thought Radical 8 Games, it's a nice, it just sounded nice, and I thought it's interesting, it's different, and I could picture that. I mean, the logo is just obviously the square root of 8, and I thought that's fine. That I actually really like that.
I didn't even pick up on that. I'm so glad I asked this question. There's like a
that's okay.
Read to this than I hoped for. So you mentioned students there. So you're a game designer by, I'd imagine, night, weekend, evenings, and lunch breaks. But by the rest of the hours that you squeeze into your day, you're a teacher.
Yep.
It's interesting how many people who I talk to in your situation, making games, publishing games, designing games, who are teachers too. What do you teach? What age? What subject?
Maths, secondary through to 6th form. I'm not going to wax lyric about teaching, but I just think in terms of board gaming, the maths, there's a load of maths in every game, dice games especially, and logical thinking. But it's part of, when you're working with kids, and there's often an element of play, an element of games, and the amount of games that I've designed for playing in the classroom, it is crazy. And so those two things just go really well together, and also the students. So I ran a board games club at the school, and they love playtesting. They just if I say, oh, I've got this game design I'm working on, or other people send me game designs and say, I've got this game design, oh yeah, no, we'll play test it, and they're brilliant. So
awesome.
Yeah, it goes really well together.
So I'm absolutely passionate, and it sounds like you are too, about bringing games into education, because I think there's just so much about the two that can help with social skills, with math skills, with problem solving skills, strategy, everything. I think it's such a big thing, but and most teachers who I talk to seem to agree with me, but there seems to be difficulty getting it into the classroom because of the bureaucracy of the British curriculum. What's your thoughts on that? I don't want to get into the politics.
Well, no, that's okay. That's okay. So part of my job, I'm a teacher. I'm also in charge of integrating mastering classrooms throughout the region, and so I think games have their place in, especially in terms of the social aspects, and there are some elements where you can introduce maybe a playful game to help with quick fluency, quick recall, that kind of thing. For a lot of the time, I do recommend not using games, and this is from experience of trying to use games in classrooms, and the game is more complicated than the actual concept I've been trying to teach. So the kids are like, oh no, we've got the concept, I just don't understand what I'm going to do on my turn. And you're like, yeah, I've pictures at way the wrong level. So you end up either with games that are very simple games, things that they know, like roll and moves, where they don't need to worry about understanding the game, and that's just to avoid cognitive overload, really. But I have got some really nice end of term games, which I've got like a worker placement for 30 students, where they move around the classroom and things like that, which work really well. But they're more your fun end of term activities rather than integrating into every lesson.
Absolutely. I love it. I think it's just so cool. And I've got a 7 and 5-year-old, and I hope as they grow up, they're going to have teachers like you that have that kind of feeling. And if not, I'm just going to send them this link and say, watch this video. This guy gets it. So back to the game. What are your hopes and dreams? It's 5 days from close. Yep. What's the next steps? Obviously, you're going to be successfully funded. The only question mark is how crazy high it goes. What's next steps?
So obviously, as soon as we fund, the goal and the objective is going to be solely focused on making sure it's manufactured to the high quality that we want, and then distributed and fulfilled. I know some people have been asking about expansions, and there's been a lot of talk about possible alternative dice sets, and that's something I'm really interested in. I'm keen on people getting the game first, because I always think with some Kickstarters, you buy the game and all the expansions, and it turns out you don't really like the game, but you've got all these expansions. So I'm more, if people like the game, then absolutely, I think I'd be up for, I haven't got any thoughts yet, but I'd probably go back to James and say, can we think of an expansion, another way to make this a richer experience? And then we can include things like alternative dice sets in such an expansion. But that's going to be when everyone's got it and everyone's happy. I want to focus on making sure that happens first, and not try and give myself too much to do.
Of course. And if anyone's watching this and the Kickstarter's over and they missed out, will they have options? Will there be late pledges? Will there be a
There will be. So we're going to have a pledge manager. We're going through GameFound for the pledge manager. They will be able to late pledge there. It was going to be a little bit more expensive than the Kickstarter price for the late pledge. So I do apologise to everyone who hasn't heard of it. I tried to get the word out everywhere so everyone knows about it, but obviously that's very difficult. But yeah, there are definitely options for people who come to this late.
great. I think paying a little bit more for late pledges is absolutely fine. The only thing that annoys me about late pledges is when there's Kickstarter exclusives that you now can't get. I want the whole game. Like, people in this industry, the gamers of us, we are completists. Like, who gets 5% of a game? None of us. So just charge 5, 10, 20 quid more. Whatever it is you want, we'll pay it, but don't take a part of the game away. So I'm glad you're going down that route. I had a bit of a rant on a chat with somebody on the other day about that exact point. I definitely want to go down that rabbit hole again. So lastly, I'm interested to get your impressions now. You've had 2 successful Kickstarters. You seem like you've got the bug. I can't imagine this is the last we're going to see from you guys on Kickstarter.
No. So I've got a plan for the next game I want to do. Something I'm very excited about. I'm doing some online play testing of it now. It's very hard to describe the game. It's not like any other game out there. It's kind of social deduction-y, more adventure-y, in which you play in different rooms, and when you go on a mission, you actually go on a mission. And I'm gonna leave it there because obviously I need to get it out, I need to get it play tested, but that's something which I want to look at after Die of the Dead. As you know, when that's in manufacturing, then I can go on with full-scale online play testing with this. But it's going to be something very different and hopefully very exciting.
Sounds intriguing. I can't wait to hear more about that. Matt, thank you so much for your time today. Congratulations on another successful Kickstarter. I hope the next few weeks and months go smoothly, and I'm sure the people who backed it will be very excited waiting to get hold of the game. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.